All right, hello everyone watching in the replay. This is the February Your Way workshop. Our theme this month is Find Your Way, and I am so excited to share with you some of the takeaways and lessons learned from the past hour. Our participants here have been doing an amazing job at getting together in small groups, sharing their experiences, sharing honestly and generously with each other, and learning as we go along. And that's what this whole experience and what the Your Way workshops are all about. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run down the 3 questions that they discussed, and then I will open up to the group to share some of their takeaways. So the first question was, which scrapbooking format is most easy and fun for you, and why do you think that is? The second question was, how do you organize and store your completed layouts, and have you always used this method? And then finally we have, is there an aspect of your hobby where you don't feel like you found your way yet? And what have you tried to get there on that particular avenue? All right, so every session of this Your Way workshop, we have these 3 questions, we do breakout groups, and then we're recording this end part for those of you watching the replay. So I hope you come and join us next time, because that's where the real magic happens, is being here live in these groups. And I want to thank all of you who are here live with me tonight. Okay, go back to seeing all of your lovely faces. Who wants to share something first?
Okay, well, the first question, the whole format was easy and fun. We ended up talking about a variety of formats, and I think we came to the conclusion that we all made Pocket Pages too hard. So.
Oh, even, whether or not you're talking about Pocket Pages or not, but we can all make whatever it is too hard, and it doesn't have to be. But I think Pocket Pages are a brilliant example of, if you think about what, even with the project life system, is supposed to be, no supplies, just a pen and cards and some photos, and then we all took it to this, creative, beautiful direction, but that's harder to keep up with than the original intent of the system. So that's a great conversation.
So Jennifer, I think my biggest takeaway was that I love scrapbookers.
Oh, I love that.
In general, all of you are just so much fun, and we're all trying to celebrate our memories and keep it here. And I heard a lot of motivation from people, this is shameless plug, but people in your Simple Scrapper membership, talking about how they're using this platform to dedicate the time. I think that's one of the things that was a recurring theme in each of my conversations, that people struggle with the time to do this hobby, and they want to take away these memories, and they want to record them for the future or for themselves. But we all enjoy the tactile the tactile touch of the paper and the photos, and yet we dabble in digital. It sounded like a lot of people are able to complete a project in digital, and it's a way for them to keep it organized and manageable. I'm sitting in the floor of my scrapbook room, and there's stuff everywhere, and part of me loves it, but part of me gets a little bit overwhelmed too. But knowing you have this hobby that you enjoy, and then just getting to share it with other people, and just hearing all their different, I don't think my groups always stayed on the question that was asked, but I thoroughly enjoyed getting to talk to people and discover that I'm not alone in this quest to finish albums.
No, you're definitely not alone, and I think that's a recurring theme every time we're on Zoom, whether for these workshops or our regular crop time. It's always just, oh yeah, me too, we're in the same boat, we're in this together. And even though we love this hobby so much, as you said, it's hard to physically take yourself from other room to this room and sit down and go and do something, when there's always laundry to fold and other things that are going on in our lives that are competing for our attention, even though we need this time so much to recharge, so that we can tackle that stuff with less frustration and resentment. Thank you for sharing that. Brilliant.
There you go. Thank you.
Somebody gonna say something?
I can share. So
Okay, go
from
ahead, Amy. I thought somebody else. Okay.
from my last group, we pretty much decided what wasn't working for me is I haven't figured out a good way for me to store my ideas for my layouts, and I've been very resistant to Trello. So we've decided that I'm going to try Trello.
Ooh, okay. You got some nudges there to keep trying.
Yes.
So I will say that one thing that's really helped me this year is, and I think part of this came from reading Elise Kribe's book and thinking about goals in terms of these like checklists. And so I created these checklists this year for the layouts I want to create. I want to create like, I think it's 8 layouts using, a silhouette cut for part of it. And I want to do 12 bucket list layouts, and having these like checklists that seems very doable and they're so visual. That's one thing that's really helped me this year. Instead of just like, endless list of ideas, instead I have a place to put those ideas. So it gives it a home.
Yeah, I like that idea of having like categories, or even like, I don't know, just like subheadings or some type of way to like break up this is just one big list of all the layouts I ever want to create, or all the ideas I have for topics or mini albums or, pages. Because, even just going through, seeing other people post pages and, oh, that's a great story idea, I should do that.
Yeah.
But then I don't know, I write it down somewhere and forget about it, or and I had done like a separate, planner, binder, notebook for all my scrappy ideas. And I did it for a few months, but then abandoned it because, it was never near me when I needed it. And what's near me all the time? My phone, technology. Well,
Yeah. Well, and that is very true. And as much as I love that tactile, and why I have the giant paper planner here, is that when I have those random ideas, I'm on my phone in the car somewhere, and that's the mix of different formats in terms of planning is what's really working for me today. Thanks for sharing.
Is Trello an app?
Trello is both a website and an app. So
How do you know it?
It's free, it's accessible in the web browser, and it's accessible on your phone on both Android and iOS. It's a project management system. So a lot of, I use it for our business. A lot of people use it to keep track of their work. We also have a lot of scrapbookers in our community that use it to keep track of their projects. And you can think of it kind of simplified as glorified sticky notes. So if you think of a wall of sticky notes, you can put them in columns. And, let's just say like the things you need to do for a trip, and then another column for the things you need to do for your scrapbook project. So you can have a mix of all these different things in one place. And they use these things called cards, which would be individual sticky notes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think the barrier for me is it's something new that I have to learn. But I know that in the Simple Scrapper membership, you have a video that I just haven't watched on how to get started. So I just need to take the time to actually watch the video and teach myself how to do it.
Yep, and all the videos I think together, I think are less than 30 minutes of time if you watch all 4 videos. So it's not a very big commitment.
I think I've come to the conclusion that there's going to be more scrapbooking ideas than I have time for ever.
Yeah.
So I'm picking and choosing what I'm going to concentrate on at that point in time that I'm scrapbooking. So you can have them in as many places as you like. You're never going to get to them all.
Right.
Well, the important thing is to know what is the one I'm working on now or next.
Yeah.
And to a certain degree, like I would say probably 10 years ago, stopped massively collecting ideas, whether it was scrapbooking ideas or recipes. I was the person that like tore out every recipe that I wanted from Cooking Light magazine until I had a stack this thick, and I'm like, I can never cook these recipes even though they all look delicious. But I kept that pile of paper for years, like years and years and years, probably 10 years. And then I'm like, I have the internet. If I want a chicken recipe, I'm going to Google chicken recipe or look on Pinterest for a chicken recipe. And I'm never going to go through that pile of paper. So I recycled it. And so, I mean, we have those digital black holes as well in terms of things we save in Pinterest and even in Trello to a certain extent. And so that's why I've had to be very careful of what I'm saving, because there will always be more things. And then the internet has just kind of exploded that even more than we were already doing to ourselves, cutting out all those magazine articles and recipes.
Amy shared, she had to leave, but she put a note in the chat that her takeaway is to fix her wish of getting back to regular 12 by 12 layouts by using her bucket list project layouts to do this. She's just going to keep them in one album altogether for this year, at least for now. She said it'll be like the checklist that Jennifer just mentioned.
Awesome. I love that. One, I mentioned the podcast episode. Shannon Manton and I talked a lot about organizing layouts and albums, and is it a storage place, a filing system, or is it a cohesive story? And you can have a clear vision, but you can also have uncertainty and store them in a place and then decide later that you want to put them in a different album or that you want to organize them a certain way. And that's the beauty of ring-bound albums, is that it makes it really easy to slide things out and rearrange if you want to later, but at least they're tucked away and they're safe. And that goes for digital scrapbookers as well, who print their layouts. All right. Caroline, I think you want to say something.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think an overall theme for me from the 3 questions has to do with satisfaction in my digital process, which is still sort of a new, digital scrapbooking is still new for me. I scrapbook in any format I want, but digital is something I've just really started picking up more and more. And the 2 takeaways I had was one with the Project Life application, which I do use that too. I consider that part of my digital scrapbooking process. It was a suggestion that Melissa made, which is don't fill up all the card pages or all the card slots and leave some of them blank. And then I could add shallow embellishments on the page, because my PL app pages just kind of seemed sort of there. There wasn't any oomph to them.
Sure.
And like when I'm used to with a paper layout, I have a little bit of oomph. I don't over embellish, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say over embellish. I'm very minimalist when it comes to embellishing. And then the other takeaway I had dealt with more traditional digital layouts. Some frustration about trying to be more artsy with things, and I'm not artsy so much with my paper layouts. Do I really need to be artsy with my digital layouts? How much should I be? So I've got some things to think about and practice and try, and with some good ideas from my group members.
No, I mean, that's a great observation. Kim and I had that discussion in our last podcast episode, how we both noticed that when we were switching back between digital and paper, that our styles kind of mimicked, but that even sometimes we're drawn to other things, but is that really our style? We always go back to our comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited to see that you're willing to explore and experiment, and you might discover something new about yourself, or you might discover something old about yourself that, yeah, that's not really for me because I've never done that, but it was fun to try.
Yep.
All right, what else? Thank you for that, Carolyn.
Mm-hmm. All right, and Caroline made me think, because she was in my first group. We talked a lot about how, as far as what format was most easy and fun, the ladies in my group did a lot of different formats, and a lot of it depended on what the project was. Mm-hmm. So they would do different formats for different projects, and they basically matched up, I guess, what they wanted their outcome to be with what they were working with. So I thought that was interesting. They didn't necessarily have this is all I do. It was a wide variety of things.
I love that, and I think that I would sense that maybe this group is a little atypical, but broader speaking, if we talk about scrapbookers in general who are active online as a giant community, that's probably more atypical than not, to say that I really line up my project with the story that I want to tell and how I think I'm going to be able to do that successfully. And hopefully it just means that you guys have been paying attention here for 10 years. But I mean, it's a really positive, that's an important skill, because that's how you get to play with fun things and do these little extra things, and invest more time and really spend time in that playful place of creativity, and then also be productive in other places where you do things that take less time, and you can not say churn them out, but get it done because you also want to tell that story in an efficient way. Like giant photo books for vacations, for example, is that the opposite.
This is Ray, and I decided that I want to do a DigiPage, but I don't want to learn Photoshop elements. I've tried that, even though I still have it. But I realized that I have Day One, and it's compatible with all my apparatus, and I should be using it more. So that's my big takeaway. I'm going to start using Day One more to get things out of my head, and then I can transfer it to paper if that's what I want to do, but that brings in the digital element. And I do most of my creative thinking, planning, etc. in the morning, and I can just easily incorporate that as part of my journaling exercises. So it's the beginning of a process, I think.
I love that. I love that it also gives you a home for those stories.
It does.
It's both a routine and like a storage location.
Mm-hmm. And if something should happen, because I have less time ahead of me than I do behind me, at least it will be documented along with what I do on my blog. I can just see a lot of connections there.
I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, I came up with the realization that I've really got to commit to finishing and being okay with not every photo needs to be incorporated, which I'm okay with. But sometimes in a scrapbook, there can be essentially a pocket page where I just put photos on the page to go with the more traditional light scrapbook page. So that's kind of my goal. One of my things that I really want to concentrate on is to get into that mindset I think I'll be closer to finishing, which is the thing I struggle with the most, is having it finished.
Well, sometimes you have to kind of adjust your expectations of yourself and what you think is enough. And sometimes that enough is actually much smaller than you think it has to be.
Yeah. It's hard because since I print digital books, it's not like I can later go on and add these photos in there. So, but they don't all need the big treatment. So,
well, also I think
collage pages.
Yeah, I mean that's a great way to do like a digital type of project life, is to do a collage with captions and things like that. But I also think sometimes I like the idea that I end up saving some of my even really good photos for a future layout or a future project that I want to do. Because maybe that ends up being another photo book of these photos of, let's just say, me and my daughter over the years. Like, this didn't really get into my project life or my album for the year because it didn't have a big story, but it's a photo that I love. So maybe it's hanging on my wall. Maybe I do a big wall gallery with like 10 of these photos, or you never know. But I love that, like, by consciously not scrapbooking every photo, that saves them for future fun opportunities.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I need to print a lot of I have a lot of good photos from this last year that I want to print.
All right. Any other things folks want to share? This has been awesome.
Sarah shared the chat room. She has a go-to, she said, but her takeaway is to print her digital layouts. You may eventually find another size she wants to try, but in the meantime, she's just going to print them 12 by 12.
I love that. Yes. Just make a decision and move on. And, in a lot of cases, you can change course later if you need to. I printed all my digital layouts in 8x8. Those are those brown binders right there. They're pretty small. Some of those fonts I can, especially now. I remember when I first printed them, I'm like, I can read that. And then now I'm like, I can't read that. So everybody said, you won't be able to read that, Jennifer. You should make the font bigger. But I didn't listen. And maybe I should have printed them 10 by 10 or 12 by 12. So We all learn from our experiences. Hey, Lisa, you're muted. I think you're talking now. There you go.
Guilty. So I think that's difficult too, though, whenever you have a digital page, because I don't know if it's going to look like a 12-point font's going to look like whenever I print it out on a computer, or is it going to be different? And so to me, that's a big struggle. It's kind of like the 35 millimeter film. Like, you know, we used to take like 24 shots and hopefully like 2 of them turned out good, and then we had something to go on. But I guess that's my concern with printing digital books too, is I don't know if I'm going to like how it turns out. I might like it on my screen, but how do you know if you're going to like it, you know? And then that's a investment in doing that, both with time and the money to print the digital book. So anyway,
I think there's a certain degree of trial and error, but then also consistency in your creative process, like making sure when you're starting a new digital page, you're doing it at 300 ppi and not a different resolution. And then also like knowing this is the font and then here's the result in real life, and then being consistent with that or bigger and trying not to go too small, even though it looks giant on your screen.
yes.
I can say having printed dozens of digital books, I tend to blow my pages up on my computer screen so that they would be 12 by 12, even if it goes off the screen, right? And so then I look at it to get a feel for it. I use 14-point font for most of mine because a lot of these I'm going to print at 10 by 10. And so then I know it'll be a little bit bigger than if I started with PowerPoint, but it doesn't look bad when it's a bigger font. Like, I feel like that's a good, happy medium. I'm very bad about consistency on font choice, which I don't know. I really should just pick one and stick with it. But for some reason, my brain's like, oh, but you used that already. You can't use it again. So, but yeah, I do think that once you figure out, blow it up on your screen to measure it out. Like, I literally get my ruler out and I measure out, this is 12 inches, and then look and see if I like kind of the way it looks. It's going to be pretty close.
That's a good tip. I like that.
Yeah, that's really smart.
Yeah, usually in print publishing, 12-point font is the standard for readability, says the technical writer. So it makes sense if you're going down in font size, picking a 14, I mean, in page size, you're shrinking it down. So 14 would be good. So think of it that way. If you're going to do an 8-point, then maybe you need to do a 16-point font if you're going down to 8 by 8. So,
or you can just shut off
at work.
And I don't know what software you use, but I've also just like shut off layers and like printed like what the journaling part like as it would be. And even if like I don't have a 12 by 12 printer, but even if it cuts off, I can get a feel for like what it would be like.
That's a good tip too, just to print it on.
That's super clever. I've never thought about that.
Yeah. Well, I'm just about to send just my journaling to the printer anyway, because that's how I do my hybrid layouts. And there's been several times and I'm like, that looks really big on my computer and that does not look big over there. So, and I just realized that I had set something up wrong. So, but that's a great tip, Kim. Thank you. All right. I love how both of you helped Lisa, and that's really what our community is all about, is just sharing these little struggles, and then we all find solutions, and then everybody can just go and create and have more fun. And I want to thank you all for sharing so generously and attending tonight, and all of you watching in the replay. I hope to see you next month for March's Your Way workshop. Our theme is decluttering. I know that is going to be a huge month full of excitement, because we all have a little bit of clutter that we need to tackle one way or another. Part of what we're doing in March next month will also be Stash Bash. This is 1 week of daily prompts to incite you to take on a challenge a day and really dive into whether or not you need to declutter, organize, or use some of your supplies. So that'll be fun as well. All right, friends, thank you again, and have a good rest of your week. Happy Monday.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, Jennifer.